A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period of high adventure and questionable racial politics. Before he was punching Nazis, Indiana Jones was going on adventures that involved fleeing Chinese gangsters, only to wind up embroiled in a new conspiracy deep in the heart of India, accompanied by a baby Quan who is very happy to be here, and Willie Scott, who was definitely not. With fortune and glory, abducted children, and possibly even the fate of the world on the line, this adventure is going to put Indy and the MPAA to the test. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom contains depictions of extremely outdated racist stereotypes and enough violence and body horror to create the PG-13 rating. Please proceed according to your needs and comfort level. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed therein are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of their employers. Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today, River Lane.
I'm so glad that my good friend Henry Slutsona has adopted a child.
And Grady Smithy.
You call them Dr. Marchioni, lady.
Oh, look at that. We have a grizzled old guy, a young, loud child, and a shrieking blonde. Perfect for this movie.
Funny how that works out.
Truly.
We are here today to talk about the second installment in the Indiana Jones series.
Greetings, I am IER-60, the biggest knight in Star Wars Connections. Point of intersection found. This is a Degree 1, produced by Lucasfilm with George Lucas as story credit and executive producer. Additional Oscar material found. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom won for Best Visual Effects at the 57th Academy Awards.
Which is technically a prequel. This was the first time that George Lucas was like, I'm gonna make a prequel. Actually, hang on, Grady, you do it.
So, I'm gonna make a prequel, and it's gonna be so racist. But it will rhyme.
Yeah. You can't really talk about Temple of Doom, like, at all without being, holy fuck the racism.
My only, like, you know, not quite damning with faint praise, but, like, my like, internal justification, if you had to put a gun to my head and force me to justify this, which you shouldn't do, but, like, you know, is that if we're running on the theory that this is just George and Steven's 30s adventure serial that they were reading as kids, all of those have at least 5 of them that are the most racist things on planet Earth. And so I guess it's like a requirement of the genre. I'm kidding. This is a lie, but, you know, sometimes you gotta take things as they are. So at the top, before we talk about everything else this grand movie has, just know, audience, that we know it's racist all the way down, but we're just not going to use it as you know, talking about the great thing of this film, shame about the racism, so that we don't all dissolve into verbal tics, you know?
Yeah, so let's get it out of our system just a little bit more. Holy fuck the racism! Holy fuck the racism!
Jesus Christ, what the fuck? I took the note where I was like, could you have made this movie about the British occupation of India instead and dodged a lot of problems? Maybe a little.
Steven Spielberg's hottest new movie is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and it has everything. The first ever PG-13 rating, outdated stereotypes, belligerent sexual tension, plucky child sidekick, useless love interest, monkey brains, slavery, an actual sword fight to make up for the dysentery in the first movie, and so much racism.
Thank you, Stefan. But I was actually, like, we were having a discussion about this in Discord, and a part of me was like, holy fuck, this kind of predicted Killmonger for Black Panther in 2018, which is a wild thing to say, because I mean, just Black Panther is generally regarded as a pretty fucking good movie that is not going to be tagged with holy fuck the racism in 30 years. 40 years. What is time?
Exactly. I had the equal and opposite reaction of the boat, diving the boat out of the ship down a mountain into a river is a prelude for the shenaniganery that is going to allow Steven Spielberg to justify Indy surviving a nuke in a fridge.
But,
True.
like, the villains of this movie, not to spoil a 40-year-old movie, but, like, their whole thing is, yes, we, the totally not real Hindu sect that worships Kali and is not at all named after, like, a cultural practice. I'm sorry, I know I'm doing the holy fuck the racism thing, but, like, we are going to overthrow the British occupation and then get rid of the Muslims and all the other Abrahamic god stuff, and we're going to take over the world. And that's not at all like the sun will never set on the British Wakandan Empire. And I'm like, gee, it sounds like aside from the whole human sacrifice thing, this is just a whole lot of what Christians did to India.
Yeah,
Just a tad.
I got so caught up in the euphoria of really interesting set design that I forgot about the racism. Because, again, deeply, deeply racist all the way down. But man, is the set design really good in that last third.
One thing that I do have to say in the movie's favor is it was the very first movie to get a PG-13 rating because it was pushing what people had thought was an extremely well-mapped boundary between PG and R, where it wasn't quite R, but it definitely wasn't PG. And it opened things up so that later filmmakers could also push things a little bit further, not make them quite so sanitized.
I will say, in regards to the whole PG-13 of it all, that means that this movie does have what obligatory fuck. Where do we put it?
I don't know where we put it, but we gotta give it to Short Round.
We absolutely have to give it to Short Round. Short Round, my beloved.
You call him Dr. fucking Jones.
The question is, at what point did this become PG-13? Was it the monkey brains? Was it Indiana Jones feeling up a statue in front of Willie Scott while she grabs at her own tits? Was it the heart ripping?
It's the heart ripping. I will bet you a nickel.
It's the heart
A
ripping.
nickel. That'll buy me nothing.
Exactly. That's why it's the perfect thing to bet.
Who even fucking has nickels anymore?
I do. They're in the wrong currency, but I do. Temple of Doom, because all of the indies have a thin streak of Jesus Christ the racism. John Rhys Davies is there, but I think this one, as its most egregious, distracts from the fact that like there are interesting ideas being posited in this here prequel movie, and what does it stand to gain by being a prequel to Raiders? And what have you, which is why I suggested we do all the Jesus Christ the racism at the top so that we can actually, like, talk about the movie.
Yeah. So, Grady, I am going to start getting the token old out of the way right now. You would have seen this in theaters, correct?
I did. I was just freshly out of the hospital after having my tonsils removed, and my parents decided to take me to the newest Indiana Jones movie, and none of us were ready for this. And let me tell you, in the post-surgery haze, this was one heck of a ride.
Did you just assume with the opening scene, like, did we go into the wrong movie, or are the painkillers still on? Why am I watching a Busby Berkeley?
No, I was a teenage boy, and Kate Capshaw was hot in that dress.
Kate Capshaw is hot in that dress, and Steven Spielberg, fuck you for being that good a director. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was a golden age of Hollywood musical at the beginning.
Yes. Steven, I understand you think your girlfriend's hot. I don't think you needed to see if she could act.
I don't think she was his girlfriend yet, because I think that he and Amy Irving were still on good terms at this point. He didn't divorce Amy Irving for about 5 more years. But he did marry Kate right after that, so don't know.
Yeah. No, it is a very impressive, like, I took the note of this is a surprisingly good dance number for a non-musical. Definitely solid movement going. It did, however, lead me to ask the question, did One Last Hope from Hercules interpolate anything goes? Because there were definitely some moments in that score where I was like, you're my one last hope, thank God it's you.
Well, Cole Porter was a very influential and prolific composer, so it's entirely within the realm of possibility. I'm just, number one, those dancers are fucking dedicated. They're coming out into a goddamn gunfight and they're still doing the choreography.
You don't dance, you don't get paid.
Yeah, the gunfight doesn't start until after they all leave, because when they all leave is when Indiana joins the scene.
No. They come back in when the gunfight is starting. Like, they started up like it's supposed to be another round, and they're, like, trying to dance, but also trying to run away while Indy and Willie are on the floor trying to get the stupid diamond and the stupid antidote.
Right. That entire scene is a slapstick comedy, and I appreciate John Williams for recognizing this.
Honestly, the choreography of the bottle of the antidote and the diamond were even more impressive than the choreography of the actual dancers.
This movie in general is a slapstick comedy in some places, and I think that kind of both hinders and helps the shenaniganery as a whole. But definitely the opening scene, and definitely, like, the last half of the last third is definitely a bit of a slapstick comedy in places. But yeah, no, Jesus Christ the racism. Jesus Christ the racism. Jesus Christ the racism.
I mean, if you're throwing in a small child to Indiana Jones's adventure, I think slapstick has to come in there, because we can't endanger the child without also making it clear, this is silly, this is fun, this is haha.
Yeah, but I think that I'm fully because, like, here's the thing, right? In the scene after Indy snaps out of it and is like, don't worry, kid, I'm fine, Indy starts throwing punches and Short Round immediately jumps in. Short Round, like Henry Mills, is down for crimes.
There is something supremely right to me about the fact that of everybody in this movie as an actor, the one with an Oscar is Ke Huy Quan.
Yes!
Yeah.
Well, like, okay, so my joke dissertation and the joke essays I keep writing when I talk about this movie are basically, we as a society have ragged on Short Round too much as a character. We need to go after the real enemy, Willie Scott.
Hey!
And on paper, I understand Willie Scott's premise. Like, I understand Willie Scott the same way that I understand Marion Ravenwood, where, like, if I'm going to pretend to track her motivations and track her as an independent character, yes, understood. I understand how we got A to B. I even understand the creative instinct of, like, let's put somebody who is not prepared to deal with Indy's style of adventure into a situation where she is forced to deal with Indy's style of adventure, including the fact that he's kind of a gruff asshole, the fact that he is constantly getting himself into danger with weird creatures, and the fact that he is a bit of a misogynist, because, again, like we talked about in the Raiders episode, Indy went through a lot of character, like, archetypes before we settled on the mess that is currently Henry Jones Jr. And I understand completely how I think the directors got from A to B on Willie Scott. However, she either needed better direction, female writers, a better actress, or a combination of all of the above to iron her out into a character that doesn't make me want to skim through the scene she's in. Compared to Short Round, who has a very anchored sense of, like, what his place is in the story. And yes, he's the kid's sidekick, but they go out of their way multiple times to show, A, Short Round is learning a lot from Indy, for better and for worse, and B, Short Round is clever on his own and can, you know, he is prepared to carry the weight of plot agency. Again, they gave him his own child foil.
I almost want to argue that
Robin to oh, sorry.
I think you were about to call him the Robin to Indy's Batman. I was going to say he's the Chewbacca to Indy's Han.
That too.
A little bit. He is the getaway driver.
Yeah, he is the kid's sidekick who can hold his own in a fight alongside the adult hero, which is pretty good considering that he's essentially an orphan that Indy won in a card game.
And also the sense of, like, when Short Round is left alone, you know, he'll play like, oh no, I'm so scared, immediately takes the pickaxe and starts going back to trying to break his own chains. Like, he was never gonna just sit around and wait for Indy to show back up again. He's like, no, Indy's in fucking trouble, I gotta go solve that.
If he'd eaten a stick of chapstick, he would have just won the whole movie.
Exactly. It's very, like, Short Round is so much, when you, like, look at it textually, this is a dynamic that has clearly been there for at least a year. Like, you know, Short Round is a street orphan, but he is comfortable enough to, like, curl up into Indy. Like, he knows that, like, sleeping there is a safe place to be, which, by the way, added 5 months back onto my life this time around. And, you know, they cheat when they play cards together. It's fun. They clearly have a very strong dynamic. If this movie had just been Indy and Short Round, my enjoyment of it would have gone up by 30%.
Short Round would tear your arms off if he lost.
Yes.
Little bit, yeah.
But in so doing, he would have revealed the ace up his sleeve.
Exactly.
I do have to say a word about Willie, though.
Yeah.
She was created specifically to be the photo negative of Marion Ravenwood. And God help them, they succeeded. But yes, River, you were so right. They needed to have a woman writer in the room.
They did! Yeah. Gloria Katz is a credited screenwriter on this movie.
You needed to fight harder for Willie, Lori.
Gloria. You needed to fight harder for Willie.
Yeah, I mean, Marion is fierce. Willie is a coward. Marion will wade into the action and just lay a guy out with a good, solid right hook. Willie is distressed that she broke her nail. Marion has dark hair. Willie is blonde. Yes, her being blonde was part of Steven making sure that this was not Mary.
Well, because like this is a side effect of the whole Bond effect that they were trying to give Indy, is the idea of like, you know, we're going to change girls every movie. And as we mentioned in the Raiders episode, Marion suffers from the movie will not let her win. This suffers from, again, I don't think these male writers kept a woman's agency involved. And Gloria needed to be able to, I don't know what the writer's room was like. I don't know if she had any fond or strong opinions about Willie, but I think that someone needed to go over her with a fine-tooth comb. And I will also attribute some of this to directing. Kate Capshaw has her moments of being an interest, like there are glimmers of like, okay, I understand why you are the way you are. The conversation around the fire where she's like, my grandfather was a magician and he died penniless, and her whole wanting of riches would justify, like, if she came from poverty, that would be an understandable motivation. Do I have to infer this and imply this without any direct information? Yeah, a little bit. But I also end up, like, I don't want to agree with my rat bastard, drunk uncle Indiana Jones, but sometimes I must. It's really the noise that gets to me.
And yet you're friends with me.
Well, yes.
Because look, I would be Willie Scott. My ARFID would be going absolutely fucking nuts if I had to eat what was served in the village where they first show up, where the elders ask them to go and try to find the Shankara stone. I would probably have jumped up and run away from the table when they first cut out the snakes of the snake surprise. Also, how was Indy not freaking out about that?
Indy had real food?
It was on the other end of the table. Indy was set up by the head with the other archaeologist / local guy in this movie, and Short Round and Willie were sat lower down on the table, so he didn't see it. And also, he was too busy doing the interrogation. That scene is only watchable if you skim everything about Willie and Short Round with the dinner and just watch the important scenes of Indy interrogating the guy to figure out what the hell is going on.
My God. Just everything about that scene is so uncomfortable.
It's such a wackadoo scene. The thing about this movie is that it is a portrayal in contrast. It's like if Raiders is every guy in their prime firing on all cylinders, then this is not quite the equivalent of, okay, let's do a silly one, but is sort of, it feels like it's in that vein because, you know, everyone is mostly still in top form, but they're using it for the worst things. Like, again, the lighting design in the back third of this movie is incredible. The set design is incredible. Shame about all the goddamn racism.
The practical effects are amazing.
The practical effects are incredible. Indy basically gets given a, hey kid, do you want to prove yourself, in the vein of a Greek hero, and we still end up doing the fortune and glory argument, which, by the way, is this the only movie that the fortune and glory argument comes up in? I feel like it is, because it's supposed to be a prequel to Raiders, and, like, the Raiders' whole thing is, like, you know, Indy's grown past that, maybe due to the events of this, yada, yada, yada type deal.
I mean, I kind of feel like the fortune and glory thing kind of circles back around a little bit in Last Crusade, or at least enough so that Ilsa feels she can use that as leverage in the end when it comes to that scene. But we're not here to talk about Last Crusade.
We're not here to talk about Last Crusade. I will yap about Last Crusade until the cows come home, because it gets saved by the fact that it's taking the boys' squad on an adventure and the worst road trip with your dad.
Can we take a moment to just... Dan Aykroyd is in this movie.
Okay, do you want to hear the series of notes I took about Dan Aykroyd's appearance?
Oh, please do.
So I said, Dan is so funny for a bit part, but that exchange feels like it was written for Anthony Daniels. Should Dan Aykroyd have become the 3PO for Indy, or is that Salah's job? No, both. Salah's R2, Dan Aykroyd would have been 3PO.
I feel like that's somehow an insult to R2 to pair him with brown guy being played by a racist white guy in brownface, but...
We live in the movies we live in. It's fine. But yeah.
The racism.
Yeah, holy fuck the racism. But yeah, like, I mean, Dan Aykroyd is basically doing his voice for the super bassmatic. Let's be 100% emoji.gov.
The thing that made me one of the things that made me so happy about seeing Dan Aykroyd in this is something that I inevitably wind up talking about at some point during any discussion of any of the Indiana Jones movies, which is Steven Spielberg's obsession with conspiriology, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, is the study of conspiracy and conspiracy theories, which during the 1970s, which was when he was in his prime, we were fucking obsessed with that stuff. And every one of the Indiana Jones movies has at least one major conspiracy theory worked into it. You know, the Hitler looking for ancient religious super weapons in the first movie. In Last Crusade, you've got the Grail and the Templars. In Crystal Skull, you have the Soviet psychic warfare program and the UFOs and the Crystal Skulls. In this one, you have the ancient conspiracy of assassins with the cult of Kali. And Dan Aykroyd is all about the conspiracy theories, too. So you know that him and Steven were throwing about 75 different conspiracies at each other every waking moment that the two of them weren't actually having to be in front of and behind the camera, respectively.
So what I'm hearing is that I wasn't incorrect when I watched the minecart, and in the same tone you'd read that one tweet about person who has only seen Boss Baby, this feels a little Boss Baby. Person who has only played Resident Evil 4, this minecart chase has a bit of Resident Evil 4 to it. Like, there are sections of it where I'm like, I think that's just the same track pattern, guys.
So basically, how the fuck did Ron Howard beat Spielberg to the Da Vinci Code?
Very quickly, I guess. And also that might have been too on the nose.
Spielberg was in his dinosaur phase.
Well, in any case, having Dan Aykroyd and Steven Spielberg yapping at each other about conspiracy theories is probably better than leaving Dan Aykroyd alone in a room with Harrison Ford to potentially talk about Carrie Fisher.
I think they would have killed each other and it would have been funny.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear, Harrison would have won just because, well...
Oh, absolutely!
The man that had, like, this strict physical training regimen for this movie, and Dan Aykroyd is a noodle man.
Motherfucker, Steven Spielberg said, I have Harrison Ford in his prime. I'm gonna make him end this movie in A, the least amount of clothing I could possibly get away with, and B, slutty as possible. And I respect him for this. Steven Spielberg, you get a salute for that and that alone. Also, Harrison Ford's workout routine. Jesus Christ, his arms, I am but an envy. For the love of God. Also, the lighting designer continues to really love highlighting Harrison's eyes in just one streak of light in the midst of shadow. He does it at the same time when Indy snaps out of the mind control, like he did in the bar in the first movie. So shout out to that for real. Also, the white tux jacket fucks. I like it a lot.
Such a great outfit.
But it's a great fit.
Makes it very easy to track him while he is in Club Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Yeah, my note for that is, hi, Steven's friend George.
Hi, story writer George.
Hi, story writer George. The font on the credits this time around is less good. I pointed it out in Raiders, but I'm putting it out this time around. The font choice is less good. More thematically consistent with how the labels or how the titles have chosen to come out on the poster, but they are a less good choice in defining this movie's identity.
I mean, given how this movie starts and you're like, wait, I am watching Indiana Jones, right? What the fuck is this musical shit? Kind of makes sense.
I mean, yes. But I also just don't think anything's gonna beat Raiders' font choice. The other note I took about the opening scene, the opening couple of things that I wanted to yap about, what do we think is the costuming or makeup secret sauce that somehow makes Indiana hotter than Han is? I think it's the combination of hat hair and sweat and dirt. Discuss.
Also the stubble.
The stubble does help. I think if Han had stubble, I would genuinely have lost my mind at age 4.
I think it's also that his hair is a little bit more organized.
I I mean, no, it isn't.
Han is not immune to hat hair, but Han is floofier. And floofy doesn't exactly work with Han's aesthetic, nor does it work with Indy's aesthetic. But Indy's aesthetic is such that his hair, when it gets hat-haired, is also generally slick with sweat because every part of him is slick with sweat because he's doing a fucking adventure.
I also think it is a part of, you know, because we joke that like Indy is Dr. Jones's slutsona. It is also a case of that instinct of, you know, well-dressed man in proper suit suddenly wears casual clothing and you lose your goddamn mind, and the reverse, the guy who's usually in casual clothing suddenly wears a suit and you lose your goddamn mind. I do think there is a little bit of that going on as well.
Okay, just to clarify, we do not call Indiana Henry Jones's slutsona. You do that. You!
It differentiates him! It's easy! Besides, it's not incorrect!
Also, there is the small matter of them taking something that is a Hollywood stereotype, usually reserved for women, and applying it to Indy, which is when they take off their glasses, they're prettier.
I mean, again, Harrison's eyes, bluer than the Pacific, let's be honest with ourselves.
I mean, I've never really gotten the appeal, but I'm a cheekbones person.
I'm also a cheekbones person, but I'm also multiple fucking things. You know how there's that joke where it's like, put some brown contacts on that blue-eyed man? I am the opposite of that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let them be blue. Let them be blue. I don't care if they're a little unnerving. Let them be blue. Just okay. I think that's the last of my thirst. I think so.
Personally, I think big brown eyes are incredibly attractive as well, but...
I mean, yes, I'm not going to argue with a man with big brown eyes. Whatever you say, princess. But, you know, what can you do?
So, we go through the whole sequence of Club Obi-Wan and the shootout and getting the poison back. Apparently, this whole, getting the remains of Emperor Nurhachi thing ended up being a video game in 2003, which, hello again, we are canonizing noodle incidents for a Harrison Ford character in a Lucasfilm project.
Listen, the indie games are fascinating. I did also take the note of, should we have just watched a cutscene movie of The Great Circle? Yes. Unfortunately, we can't do the video games around here. Because you should go, if you can't play it, you should go watch a cutscene movie of The Great Circle. It is what if you gave Indy a lesbian as his companion? Not literally, but there is a literal lesbian in it, or an implied lesbian. She was living in Berlin before the Nazis invaded, and she does look like that, and she does mention having a strong relationship with the girl in this one's sister, and that's as close as getting to a confirmed lesbian as you're going to get in an indie movie. Troy Baker's great in it. And it's about going to find Noah's Ark. No, I'm not kidding.
Well, Sam, as far as the video game is concerned, it rhymes. And don't you know how much money those games make?
I mean, yeah, the OG point-and-click adventure games were the shit, apparently, even though I've never played them.
Right.
I lost so many quarters to the Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom arcade game back in the day, though.
Incredible. The other thing I wanted to say about the opening scene is during the negotiation process, I love I don't know what else to call it other than the dim sum spin table.
So, it sometimes gets called a Lazy Susan after noted racist and rapist Thomas Jefferson's invention that is relatively similar. My family likes calling it a whirligig.
So for me, the case is it's a Lazy Susan if it's in a cabinet, because that's where our Tupperware lives. Because like the most frequent place you see them is like, you know, is in dim sum places where you have to like share a bunch of food going around the table, and it's easier to just spin it than worry about boarding house reaches or whatever. And using that as a negotiation method and using that as like an exchange of items during basically a hostage negotiation is a hyper-specific thing that you would kind of really only get if you were opening this movie in Shanghai, and I think that's neat.
Chef's kiss.
But yeah, now we gotta drop Indy out of a plane.
R.I.P. to those chickens, they deserved better.
R.I.P. to those chickens, they did deserve better.
And we got the Wilhelm scream.
We got the Wilhelm scream twice. It pops up once in the bar fight, and it pops up once during the fight with the cult. A guy yells it after the bridge drop.
Yeah.
Most Gordian
also,
not move.
The first pilot, when the other pilot has to shove him out the door, We get it then, too.
That's 3 whole Wilhelms and a lightsaber sound. Don't think I didn't hear that, Ben Burt.
I didn't hear it.
We're trying to drop Willie into the mouth of hell. The doors open, sounds like a lightsaber igniting. It is a blink and you'll miss it, but it was definitely one of those where I'm like, Ben Burt, don't think I didn't hear that. Yeah, the DP did great. I have, like, thematic things, if we want to deal with that, or do we still want to try and go down the plot?
So, like, you can really take this movie in 3 chunks. There is the Club Obi-Wan shootout, there is the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad road trip, and then there is the Temple of Doom. And goddamn, the Temple of Doom part, just from the moment they open the temple and immediately are like, all right, dungeon crawl, let's go. It is fucking wild. And honestly, the trap scene is comedy gold. Like, poor Short Round is doing his goddamn best.
Short Round, I did what you told me to do. I didn't expect it to be a switch. I love Short Round.
God,
He's so important to me.
Also, lines like, there are 2 dead people out here. There are gonna be 2 dead people in here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The scene in the palace when they're trying to flirt with one another before they start arguing, which, again, Jesus Christ. That entire flirtation exchange deserves a better movie. That's pretty solid. God Christ, but it deserves a better movie.
Fucking agonizing to me as a hater of belligerent sexual tension.
It really was a product of the times that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas grew up watching movies.
I think that there is a thin line between attempts at seduction and belligerent sexual tension. The arguing and comedy scene of them trying to figure out who caves, belligerent sexual tension are below that. The other one, that's a seduction scene, baby.
Yeah, I don't even think that, like, Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy could have pulled it off.
Oh, Bogart and McCall could have.
Oh no, Spencer and Tracy could have carried off the pacing, each one impatiently waiting for the other one to cave in part. It's just the whole everything elseness of the scene.
Nothing shocks me, I'm a scientist is definitely one of Indy's funnier pickup lines. Incredible content. Though I will say that when the guy from Oxford is like throwing all of Indy's missteps back at him, including that they threatened to cut off your head, and he's like, it wasn't my head. And it's like, then your hands? And he's like, well, and he sort of looks down. I'm like, I do think cutting off Indy's dick would have solved a lot of problems.
Not least of which, Mutt Williams.
Yeah, I say this again. I say this as somebody who enjoys my drunk uncle, but I do think we should cut off Indy's dick sometimes.
Not sure how much it would have helped us in this particular scenario, though.
Unfortunately not. The part where he comes into her room trying to find the assassin that he assumes was sent after her, and she assumes that okay, fine. He's in here. Please be gentle with me. And he just walks past her. I wrote down in my notes, but baby, it's Orientalist outside.
Jail for 1,000 moons.
Grady, no. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the assassin in Indy's room. Number 1, fighting with a light source from a single exposed bulb. My beloved. Fucking love that lighting setup. Also, Short Round, awake, 5 seconds later, brawling.
Yep.
Down for crimes! And also, like, I do appreciate that, like, when the guy is very clearly going to end up hanging himself by accident, Short Round immediately closes his eyes and is just like, nope, I don't want to see this again. Because you know that's not the first dead body he's seen. Fresh dead body, at least.
And it won't be the last!
And it will not be the last! Short Round does, however, say workers' rights. I support that. I love breaking out everybody at the end. But, yeah, no, the assassin scene is really fascinating and really interesting, and I love looking at it. Though, technically speaking, it handshake Speed Racer? Don't worry about it. There is some level of if we're just gonna really embrace the racism of it all, you can't even get good ninjas these days. So yeah, I've got the thematic thought of the exchange between Willie and Indy after they've after they've seen the whole whatever the fuck the ritual TMCR is, which by the way does sure as hell sound like John Williams doing a dry run for Duel of Fates.
Yes! I mean, Duel of the Fates was like, if I remember correctly, it was a Welsh poem that they translated into Sanskrit.
I believe so, yeah.
Because John just really liked all those big round vowels.
Yeah. Also, by the way, if you're wondering, while nothing is translated in the movie, the chanting for the cult is translated in the IMDb quotes, if you want to know. Or at least some of it is.
Well, now I want to.
I was looking for quotes for my little journal, which I think I took one of Short Round's, because, again, Short Round, my beloved, little weirdo. No, I took Indy's, are you trying to develop a sense of humor, or am I going deaf? But the actual exchange I wanted to talk about was the bit where after all of that happens, Indy's like, right, gotta go get the stones, and Willie's just like, you're gonna get killed for your fortune and glory, and Indy's like, maybe, but not today. And I think that that's such an interesting exchange to put in something that is ostensibly a prequel, you know? It's not textually evident unless you look at the timestamps on both opening scenes of the movie, which I don't know if a lot of audiences were doing at the time. And also, there's been so much shit that's been happening between A and B, you know? Sometimes we don't remember things. And DVDs didn't really exist yet. And I think VHSs are either a glimmer in our eyes or they're, like, starting to come to prominence, but they're fucking expensive.
They're relatively new and they cost a lot.
Yeah, so they're a glimmer in our eye, but they cost more money than God.
Huzzah, token old.
Yeah. But, like, taking that exchange and putting it in a prequel, especially when, again, the fortune and glory thing doesn't really pop up in Raiders, because Raiders is the very smart framing device of, hey, kid, do you like proving yourself? And then our other problem is the Nazis. So it can be about fortune and glory to some extent, but it is mostly about stopping the goddamn Nazis from getting a weapon, which we should all want to do. Remember, kids, it's all about punching Nazis. And then again, it comes up again, if recollections are to be believed, it comes up a little bit in Last Crusade. But Last Crusade also eventually becomes, oh, get that damn thing out of a Nazi's hand. So this is the only movie that can play the 30s adventure serial idea of fortune and glory completely straight out of the gate and not have to do much twisting to it. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that these are adventure serials from the 30s in a B-movie styling, just happening to be directed and starring, you know, the biggest actors and creatives of their day at their full power. That we are getting close to having Steven Spielberg's number around this time is like having God on speed dial. And so what it does for the thematics of Indy as a character going forward, which there isn't a lot of one. That's my other thing. Indy does not get as many good character beats in this one as he does in one. I do, again, love his humanizing fear of snakes when he is very clearly freaked the fuck out, and Willie is so self-absorbed that she doesn't realize he's freaked the fuck out, which is a little amusing.
Yeah.
Good turn, but it's like
especially because she's been freaking out over every other thing, which also me. I would freak out about the bugs, and about the bats, and about the frogs and stuff, and I think elephants are adorable, but if an elephant were poking me with its trunk, I would probably also be annoyed.
Sam, how do you feel about camping?
I don't like it. I have not been camping in well over 10 years, in part because the last time I went camping, I came back looking like I had chickenpox again. The mosquitoes tried to eat me.
Yeah. So you have my mother's condition of camping for her is a Holiday Inn instead of a normal hotel. Also a fun fact: this is the only Indiana Jones movie my mother hasn't seen, which means I have no idea the first time I saw it because it wasn't. That means it wouldn't have been in rotation in my house. But I also watched it as part of when I first decided that Raiders was one of my catharsis movies in college. I watched Raiders, and then 2 days later watched Temple and Last Crusade, and that is where I developed the opinion of, yeah, this movie would have been better if it was just Short Round, and we need to fight the real enemy Willie Scott. But I probably watched it either in pieces or in full before that. Could have gone to my head, no idea when. But the idea of putting, because in Indy, if Indy is driven by his empathy, if Bex is led to believe, by the way, if you haven't watched the Raiders, listen to the Raiders episode, you should go listen to the Raiders episode. Obligatory plug, I reference it too much. If Indy is inherently driven by his empathy. That is why he keeps Short Round around. That is why he is taken in Short Round under his wing. And Short Round seems to at least have been doing the bare minimum of listening to what Indy says, even if he trips up every once in a while. Also, this kid can drive a car. That's fucking hilarious. And so he is doing his best to worry about Willie and keep her alive and what have you. But he doesn't know how to relate to her because she is very, like, keeping up. Like, again, if I'm going to pretend that Willie Scott has internal motives outside of her own, outside of what the writers and the filmmakers have given to us, there's probably some level of this that is Willie putting on a mask. Like, you know, she's a showgirl. No one's allowed to see her crack. To borrow a comment from Mark Waid via Batman Year One, performers don't cry. And so, while yes, a lot of her freaking the fuck out is just her freaking the fuck out because she is a normal person in an Indiana Jones movie, I do think some of it, like, especially towards Indy, is a facade. It's a mask. It is you don't get to hold power over me because the minute you hold power over me is a situation I may or may not be able to get myself out of. And, you know, Indy is bad at that, but he tries in his, you know, gruff drunk uncle ways sort of deal. And I think that's a really interesting idea to put in a prequel. Shame it doesn't get expounded upon in ways that matter.
Yeah, Indy likes two types, action girls and damsels, and Willie isn't quite damsel enough for him to know exactly how to deal with it.
I mean, apparently there's also an episode of Young Indiana Jones where he fucks Mata Hari or hooks up with... There's something to do with Mata Hari, and I only know about this because Carrie Fisher was involved in some way. The last time we watched Young Indiana Jones, I almost broke. But this is still more racist than that first episode of Young Indiana Jones.
Sadly, yes.
Shit is happening all of the goddamn time.
I'd like to make a note on something that I finally figured out how to reconcile something that I thought was a contradiction between this and Raiders. Because, you know, in Raiders, you have Indy saying, it belongs in a museum about the Ark. And in this one, he's like, no, it belongs back in the village it was stolen from. And I was wondering, okay, what gives here? This, I don't get it. These are two separate viewpoints, and it finally clicked for me when I was watching it in preparation for this. The village where the stone was stolen, that's still an active village with a population that depend on it. And so, yes, of course he's going to get it back to them, because as much as he enjoys being the famous international action boy Indiana Jones, he thinks that ultimately... You gotta, you know, if they're with an active population, you gotta do the right thing. When they're dead, it's fair game.
How do you explain the idol and the Solitude Village in the Amazons?
Wait. It Belongs in a Museum was in Last Crusade, wasn't it? It was about the cross of the Conquistador.
I thought. Oh no, I thought he said that about the Ark.
No, because it's his fade-in scene after the River Phoenix prologue scene, because they do the crossfade of River with the hat to Indy being held hostage on the boat in the rain.
Yeah, it's definitely Last Crusade, which is after both of these.
Yeah, I think the better method of tracking of this is, like, Indy is doing the same mental calculation he did with the Ark. If the options are in the protection of people who can keep it safe, or some sort of evil, in this case a cult that is is doing child labor, ripping people's hearts out and throwing them into the pits of hell, then he's going to put it with the people who can keep it safe. Which is why, like, his whole deal with the Ark is there is no way to leave the Ark alone without the Nazis going back after it. Which is why he's like, it's getting he's not happy that it's getting shoved in a warehouse for the rest of its natural life, but he'll accept it for the time being because it's that or the Nazis.
No, River, you don't understand. They have top men looking after it.
It's in a warehouse.
Top men.
But anyway, I think because this is, again, we should just be watching The Great Circle, which takes place after Raiders, but before Last Crusade. That one is sort of, what if we gave Indiana a bit of a modern sensibility about personage?
Artifact repatriation?
Yeah, that too. Again, that movie is, benefits from the fact that we spend most of it in Europe and most of it in Italy, and we spend a bit of time in, I think, Thailand, I want to say. We spent a bit of time in Thailand.
So mostly in places that have museums that need to give shit back.
Yeah, we're also on a quest for items that do teleportation. Don't worry about it. That game is stupid. We end up in Russia at one point in the ice because we put an entire... No, we don't end up in Russia. We end up in the Antarctic. We put an entire Russian ship there because some guy activated the magical artifact and got an entire Russian vessel stuck in a mountain. Don't worry about it.
Dial of Destiny seem less dumb.
Don't worry about it. Listen. That game has an ability where you can pick up literally any object and hit a Nazi with it. It's incredible. We get to beat up also Mussolini's fascists. It's incredible. Go watch a cutscene movie. It's great. But yeah, so like the thing is about Indy's opinions with repatriation is, as I mentioned in the Raiders episode, yes, we can have a lot of thoughts about, the difference between grave robbing and archaeology and the nature of repatriation of artifacts and what have you. But Raiders and Last Crusade have the excellent framing of it's either a museum or the goddamn Nazis, and we don't want to give the Nazis anything they fucking want.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the arguments about, like, oh, if Indy hadn't done anything, Raiders would have still gone the way it did, doesn't hold water to the same extent as Last Crusade does, because Last Crusade has the failsafe of Grail cannot cross the Great Seal, blah, blah, blah. But also, just going back to this one's so weird because, well, holy fuck the racism, but also the British Empire are treated as the good guys. Like, how far off are we from partition at this point?
This is 35, so...
10, 12 years?
47. So, about a decade.
Yeah.
Which, again, is why I think you could have bumped... If you had wanted to keep this as a prequel, you could have, made the English the bad guys. If you wanted to bump this up a couple of years and not make it a prequel, you could still have the English as the bad guys. I know why we
There were English fascists. There were English fascists. You could have been like, oh, look, here's some people who want to topple King George VI and reinstall Edward the whatever number, the one who married Wallace Simpson. And they're gonna use the people of India to do it by culturally appropriating the Shankara stones and the Thuggee cult. And that could have scratched Steven Spielberg's conspiracy ZZ itch. I think I had a small stroke there for a moment.
Yeah, I know. I think I know why they didn't. This is ultimately a movie made by Americans. But, yeah, if they had wanted to, dial down the Jesus Christ racism of it all, or make the Jesus Christ racism of it all a little bit more intentional, then, yeah, this movie would objectively be about the English and their relations, quote unquote, with India. But alas, we live in this timeline and we must deal with the movie we have received. I also get to add a tally in my Indiana Jones is clever and smart. Indy gets pulled out of brainwashing by Short Round and immediately is like, okay, who do I need to take out first to make sure that I can get out of this alive and keep my allies safe? All right, you, and then you. Okay, now to tell Short Round that I've got a plan. Grab Kid. A sure plan. Start kicking ass. Kid joins in. Excellent. All right, now we gotta worry about getting Willie out of the jaw of hell. Which, by the way, good Hellmouth design. Sick as hell. Cool, even.
Yeah. It's all very nice production design, and I'm honestly looking at my dice tower like, oh, is this derivative? For the listeners who don't know, because this is an audio medium, I have a Dimension 20 themed Box of Doom dice tower, which could very easily have a bunch of Shankara stones put into the eyes and the nose, just like they have the Shankara stones for Kali statue thing.
Again, I love the set design and production design. Shame about the racism. I got so caught up in the euphoria of art direction that I forgot about the racism. Because, again, all of the sets are genuinely very good. The minecart race at the end is very fun. Getting a little bit of Resident Evil 4 going on. But, then you get reminded of all the racism.
Did we ever get confirmation on whether that kid who didn't want to drink the blood of Kali and then clearly did have to drink the blood of Kali because he got brought in to make Indy drink the blood of Kali, did he ever undrink the blood of Kali? Did we ever get to see him again?
I don't know if it's just a similar face thing or they weren't on screen long enough, but I think that kid is also the Mahabharata, Like the kid they were using
that
as a
kid
puppet?
is not the Maharaja.
It's a different kid?
It's a different kid.
The Maharaja was absolutely a part of the cult.
Shrug emoji, I'm going to assume he's part of the workers' liberation kid escape box.
I mean, the Maharaja does seem to have also been, like, drugged and shit, because he does point the way out eventually.
Yeah, Short Rounds tries to set him on fire the same way he did with Indy to break the spell, because I guess the blood of Kali doesn't work if you're under physical harm. So Short Round like spun him out, and that's when he was like, "Yeah, no, take the left tunnel, get out of here."
And then we didn't.
But again, like, we gave Short Round a foil and his own villain. Of course, Short Round's the secondary protagonist of this movie. Where have you all been?
And he punches the evil straight out of that kid's head.
Steven, why did you not give this child a franchise?
Yes, he's so clearly supposed to be the successor. Come on!
He was too busy moving to the Pacific Northwest and starting to work on gadgets.
Okay, Quan, I owe you the best. I want nothing but good things for you. I think that Hollywood should have to pay you reparations, like just a bag of money a year.
I mean, I think they kind of do that now anyway with just, like... I feel like Ke Huy Quan is in everything now.
I mean, Love Hurts, Zootopia,
He was in the Loki series.
Right, OB, my beloved. I love OB, he's so funny.
He was in the Kung Fu Panda thing.
Okay, I didn't see Kung Fu Panda. I haven't watched a Kung Fu Panda since movie 2.
Oh shit, he's in the new Avatar: The Last Airbender movie.
Hell yeah! Love that for him.
Yeah, he's playing a previous Avatar, Avatar Shan.
Love that.
Ooh.
I don't think that's one we've met yet.
I think I know what I'm doing.
I wouldn't know. Everything around Avatar is really, really frustrating to me right now because fucking Paramount.
Fucking Paramount.
Which also kind of ruined my enjoyment of this movie right at the start, because, hey kids, remember when Lucasfilm wasn't part of the Disney monolith?
Hey kids, remember when there were more than 2 production companies? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
God, I hope the Warner Brothers merger doesn't go through. Fuck you, Gavin Newsom.
I hope Larry Ellison has to eat hope he has to eat $9 billion.
I do know that because of, like, the lawsuits and stuff, it now can't go through until, like, December 2027 or something, and that means that next month they have to start paying shareholders as an apology. Like, sorry, we didn't sell out fast enough.
And if it dissolves entirely, Ellison's on the hook for, again, $9 billion.
Eat fucking shit, Ellison.
Eat dirt.
Eat chilled monkey brains. We brought it back.
Ellison's ambitions belong in a museum.
Ellison's ambitions belong in hell.
That too.
The entire bridge fight sequence is fucking hilarious. I love the bridge fight scene. I love the Kuleshov effect of people getting eaten by crocodiles. I had to Google to see if crocodiles were native to India, and they are.
Fantastic.
More bad guys should get eaten by crocodiles. It would bring me joy.
Honestly, like, the fact that Indy can just give Short Round a look and Short Round's like, locked in! Okay, we're going for a ride!
Indy, look, gesture, instructions in Chinese. Short Round, oh, for fuck's sake, okay!
Here we go again.
That was another example of how great the concept of Indy knowing 99% of the languages spoken on the face of the entire globe is.
Indy is very much I know how to speak it, but it's bad, and you don't want to hear an American do it, so you should probably just give me English.
Yeah, that old thing of, like, they speak in one language, I speak in English, they understand me perfectly. Things that's, it's like so Star Wars.
Indy strikes me as a guy who can probably read everything he puts his mind to. His ability to speak it is a coin flip. He can read it and he can listen to it. Whether or not he can speak it is a coin flip. Because remember, when he starts speaking to the guys in front, they're like, oh, you do speak the language. And he's like, yeah, only for special occasions. And it doesn't seem to be perfect, but it's enough to get Short Round to understand him. I would bet you a nickel, if we had a different ally who also spoke Mandarin, or I think it is Mandarin. It's subtitled but not translated, for those of you wondering. But,
you mean like the guy that they killed at the opening?
Yes.
The guy who clearly we had a lot of adventures with, and this was a much beloved character. But I go into this great adventure first, Indy.
Listen. That's just the same trick George pulled about the Clone Wars.
Yep.
The boys are committed to the serial dynamic. If you missed last month's comic, don't worry about it. Anything that needs to go on will be explained in this one.
I don't see David Yip getting a spin-off.
Why not?
David Yip was the actor playing Indy's friend Wuhan. The one who died.
But, like, who's to say that if
It didn't happen!
I know it didn't happen, but that's the tone, Sam. Just because Star Wars gives every side character their own spin-off now doesn't mean that they weren't built on the foundation of old school comics and old school serials. Remember, most of the Marvel comics were meant to be thrown out at the end of the week when they were done being read by everyone in your family. That's why a lot of the early ones are just straight up kind of missing in places. It's why you get the recap every issue of who the fuck everybody is. They're playing within the tones of the genre, and I appreciate it.
I mean, I guess.
But also, once again, the equivalent of just shooting the guy instead of stabbing him with the sword. Even though we don't really get a sword fight in this one, he does the same thing that Han does, where he goes running off with the sword and then realizes he's facing more guys that he knows what to deal with. The shooting the guy with the sword this time around is the Gordian knot we're cutting the bridge.
Yep.
It's the, why make this harder than it has to be? Slice.
Also kind of puts the scene in Raiders into perspective. Like, you can just imagine Indy having war of, oh god, not this shit again. Nope, I actually have a gun this time.
Yeah, I didn't lose it in the opening 20 minutes. At the end of the day, Temple is the one I rewatch the least, but there are enough aspects to it where I'm like, I don't hate myself every time I go either think to rewatch it, or if I'm doing it for something like this, and it's a mandatory watch type deal, you know?
Mandatory watch? You volunteered.
I did volunteer, however, comma.
I signed up because the last time I saw this movie the entire way through was when I saw it in the theater in 1980, whatever. And so I wanted to revisit it, and some of the things that I didn't notice were problematic then, I really couldn't not notice. Some of the things I remembered as being bigger problems weren't quite as much, but ultimately...
Would you say the Force is with it?
Yes, more than not. Because at the end of the day, it's a story about somebody who has to put aside his own mercenary impulses to do the right thing. And the part where Indy steals the stones and he's thinking, okay, I'm going to get out of here, home free. And then he hears the children working in the mines and he's like, shit, I have to set those kids free.
Comrade Indy.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do a maybe with an ellipsis question mark.
You know I don't allow that!
I know you don't, so I'm gonna go no with a footnote. There is enough in here that I would justify, but it is an elaboration. It is not the one I pick up to rewatch. Again, those are Raiders and Crusade. So, no with a footnote, no with an asterisk.
And by that same token, I am also giving it a no. There are too many icks for me in this. The racism is an ick. The number of creepy crawlies is an ick. Kihei Quan is never an ick. I love that man.
So far.
He's a joy.
Don't jinx me, River. Please don't jinx me.
I'm trying not to jinx you. I've knocked on wood.
Where's Pluggables?
I am going back to my usual tradition of saying, if you liked this, then try this. I have two recommendations. One is 2025's Love Hurts, a romantic comedy where Kihei Quan plays a former assassin who is being pulled back from his comfortable suburban life that he has assumed when a figure from his past resurfaces and he has to resolve some unresolved business from then. It's charming, it's fun, there's some utterly, wonderfully ridiculous action scenes in it, and it's more Kihei Quan. The other is 2015's Raiders, the story of the greatest fan film ever made, which is the story of a guy who goes and sees Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater, because like me, he's Gen X and he's old enough to be around for that, fell in love with it. Unlike me, this guy has actual filmmaking chops, and so he and his friends spend the next decade and change doing a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark, except for one scene, which is the big plane scene, because they're high schoolers at this point, and they do not have money or the resources that it takes to do that, and how they lose contact for a while, and then they decide to get back together a couple decades later because we're going to do a Kickstarter and we're going to get the money that we need in order to build the set and the plane and finish the project. And it's the story of how they started this, the trials and tribulations they had along the way, why they were very much not friends for a while, and then can they actually pull off this last scene. If you haven't seen it, you should see it because it's amazing. If you've seen it but it's been a while, you should watch it again because it's been a while. It is a great documentary and has such wonderful nostalgia for all of us who watched Raiders as a kid, and also just a really good story and through line through it. And it also, during the credits, has parts where they'll show you on one side of the screen the actual movie, and on the other side, the shot-for-shot remake, and it's uncanny how good this kid was.
You can find me on BlueSky at Dreams Rebel. You can find me on my own website, blog.filmlion.online. You can find me as the host of The Straights Aren't All Right, a podcast where I gather a bunch of queers together, make them watch straight rom-coms, and try to answer the question, are the straights, like, okay? For those playing the home game, no, and no. And before Sam asks, yes, I did think about if any of the Indiana Jones movies count, and I settled on no, so I do have some restraint. You can find that wherever pods are cast, and you can find it on BlueSky at aren'tallrightpod.com.
And in the spirit of Star Wars, to be there for the people who need us, this episode is spotlighting the South Asian Mental Health Initiative and Network, created to provide mental health services and resources for South Asian people across the United States, decreasing the stigma around mental health and improving accessibility for those in an underserved community who need this resource. And after watching a movie like this, they definitely need it. The link can be found in the description, as well as on my various socials at Demisem. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls, one beat synth pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period, the band. To further support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, and share with your friends to boost our visibility, and consider joining our Patreon. And now, it's time to turn to the Chance Cube to see where our journey takes us next.
That's a 4.
Ellie!
What has Ellie cursed us with?
For our Degree 4, we will be continuing our streak of Oscar-winning movies with the 1972 film Cabaret.
Hell yeah!
Auf Wiedersehen. A bientôt. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful, and may the Force be with you.